Welcome to the Leading Edge Podcast with Eric Thompson.
Inspire, perform, profit.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Leading Edge Podcast, episode number 19, where we talk about responsibility of feelings. So what the heck do I mean by that? What I mean is who is responsible for your feelings, and then also who's responsible for their feelings. All right, so that's what we're going to get into in this one. I'm going to share some profound lessons for me that I've learned from some other people along the way. Let me start by asking, who are the people pleasers out there? All right, who are the people, and you know who you are, who are the people who just love to make other people happy, who kind of thrive on that, who get really focused on their mission in life is to make other people happy. Who are my people pleasers? Well, you know who's a people pleaser? Me, all right? I am absolutely a people pleaser. I'm thinking about starting People Pleasers Anonymous, right? So that's how I am naturally wired up. I love to make other people happy. You know what? Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that's not a good thing, right? So I'm guessing that you can relate with me on that. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. It's not so good sometimes to be totally focused on making other people happy because you know what? A lot of times you cannot. And ultimately what we're going to find out is it's not our job to make other people happy. That's not a good way to live your life. If that is your sole mission, is just making other people happy, that leads to burnout, all right? So one of the best lessons, one of the most profound lessons I ever learned in my life, this is back in the day, I was coaching with someone who was kind of helping me out, giving me some guidance as I was just embarking into leadership and management. And she got me to really embed this phrase inside of me. And it's a little phrase that I still remind myself of today, and it really helped me back then. And the phrase is this. The phrase is, I am not responsible for other people's happiness. All right. Again, I am not responsible for other people's happiness. Now, when I first heard that, I was like, what? That totally like blew my mind. That warped my thinking. It changed everything for me because I was not, up until then, I was not living my life that way. I was kind of living my life the opposite, where I felt like I was 100% responsible for other people's happiness. And so again, the phrase is, if you're a people pleaser like me, the phrase to embed, the phrase to remind yourself of is, I am not responsible for other people's happiness. And that is a way better way to live your life. That will just give you a whole lot more freedom. It will put the energy where it needs to go. And it also begs the question, so if I'm not responsible for other people's happiness, what am I responsible for then? If I can let go of that responsibility, then what do I need to own? And so I want you to think of this like a ledger, okay? So think of, you can even do this as long as you're not driving. You could do this if you want to at least think of it. Think of like a ledger. So think of a piece of paper and a line right down the middle of the piece of paper. And at the top of the left column, write me, and then the top of the right column, write them. And so this is a list of responsibilities, okay? So where does the responsibility lie? So the things over on the left are going to be all the things that I'm responsible for. The things on the right are going to be them, the things that they are responsible for. So when it comes to happiness, their happiness, I guess, lives on the right side, okay? So between me and them and responsibility, their happiness is going to live over on the right side. So that would be the only thing over there on the right. That's what they're responsible. They're responsible for their own happiness, their own joy, their own fulfillment, what they're getting out of life, how they experience life. That is on them. All right. So then what lives over on the left side? Well, then obviously the first thing you put over there is my happiness, right? So my own happiness is going to live over on the left, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So there we go. That's how we start. They're responsible for their happiness. We're responsible for our own happiness. The next thing that goes on the left side that we're responsible for, and this is a big thing I've learned in leadership and in management and coaching, what we're responsible for, what lives over on the left side, is the environment, okay? So that was a big thing for me, a big shift for me. I'm going to let go of being responsible for other people's happiness, but I am 100% responsible for the environment. All right. So the environment meaning the company, the environment meaning the office, the environment meaning the world that I'm creating for other people to ultimately have success and joy and fulfillment and happiness. I want those things for other people. I'm not responsible for those things, but I am responsible for creating the environment where that can happen. All right. So that's what I own. I own the environment. It's up to me to create the place and the space and the energy and the support, right? And the systems and all those things that make up the environment so that the other person can have amazing success. So a big part of making the environment right is who you allow into the environment. Okay. So the environment is about, like tangible things like systems and like how the office is decorated and set up and how the office looks and the aesthetics, right? And systems and support and tangible things like that. But the environment is also a whole heck of a lot to do with who's in the environment. I always say that the best people want to be around the very best people. One of the moments of truth in my life in management and leadership and coaching is when I had to excuse the number 2 producer in my company from the company because it just wasn't working out, right? He wasn't treating other people right, wasn't treating people well. Yeah, he produced a lot of real estate and produced a lot of revenue for the company and did lots of transactions, but he had a very much a negative impact on the environment. So that's an example where I had to own that. I had to own the environment. I couldn't be responsible for trying to make him happy and trying to turn him into a better person. I couldn't be responsible for trying to make other people happy in spite of him having a negative impact. What I had to own is the environment and the fact that he was having a negative impact on the environment. So I had to step up and do that and excuse him. And man, I'll tell you what happened the very next day. The environment soared to a whole different level, a whole new place, a whole different height of energy and positivity, right? So that's what I own. I own the environment. What else do I own? What else would live over there on the left side of the ledger? Well, I own how I would respond to people. Okay, so I own how I respond maybe to negative people. I own how I respond to challenging circumstance, right? I own those things. I also own boundaries. I own the boundaries that I create around myself. And what that means too is that I own whom I choose to hang out with and whom I choose to allow into my environment, all right? So because I'm responsible for my own happiness and I'm not responsible for other people's happiness, I am going to own who gets invited into my world, who gets invited, and who I choose to hang out with. That is something that I absolutely own. Now, the thing is, there are some people that we are forced to be around who maybe we wouldn't otherwise choose to be around. And we have to know how to deal with that, how to handle that, knowing that we're responsible for our own happiness. And this is going to be the same conversation, but kind of in reverse, all right? So we're not responsible for other people's happiness. We're responsible for our own happiness. So let me ask you, do you ever find yourself saying, oh my gosh, that person, they make me so mad? Or so-and-so, you know what? They drive me crazy. And I want you to really think about that and really consider what's going on. Do they literally make you so mad? Do they literally make you so crazy? Or is it the thought of them that makes you so mad and makes you so crazy? Like when you're around them, are they literally like taking crazy from their brain and like literally tangibly placing it over in your brain? Like are they spooning out some crazy out of them and then literally giving you a dose of crazy that you then ingest into you? Or are they spooning out some mad from them and then handing it to you, and then you take mad from them and put it in you, and now all of a sudden you feel mad? So are they saying like, okay, here's a little packet of mad feeling or crazy feeling, here you go ahead and take this, and then you choose to ingest it. No, that's not happening literally. What's happening is it's how we choose to think about that person that is making us so mad and making us so crazy. And we get to choose how we think about that person. Because what's really trippy is that those people that make us mad, those people that make us crazy, there are other people who really love them, right? There are other people who find them endearing and wonderful, and we wonder how that could ever be. But they find them that way because that's how they think about that person. And so the way we think about those people that make us so mad or drive us crazy, we're putting that responsibility of feeling mad or feeling like we're going crazy, we're putting that responsibility onto the other person, right? We're letting them own that responsibility. They don't own that. They don't own how we feel, okay? We own how we feel. That's on our side of the ledger. That's over on the left side of our ledger. So what does not live over on the right side of the ledger is how we feel. They are not responsible for our feelings. All right, does that make sense? We are not responsible they are not responsible for our feelings. So when we're around those people that maybe we would choose otherwise to not be around, maybe it's someone in our family, we all have those people, it's the long lost uncle, the second cousin, or whomever it is that we're sometimes forced to be around. See, we get to choose how we think about that person. And really what's going on is we get to choose whether we're going to get hooked or not. We get to choose whether that person's going to hook us into their crazy or hook us into their negative feelings, right? We get to choose that. We get to choose if we're going to take the bait or not. We can be the fish that just kind of looks at that bait and chooses not to take it, or we can be the fish that's going to take the bait and get hooked. So we can choose to not be hooked. And the way that we choose not to be hooked is to keep that responsibility for our feelings over on our side of the ledger. So instead of getting hooked, instead of giving them the responsibility of making us feel crazy or feel mad, keep the responsibility of your feelings over on your side of the ledger, right? So ultimately, what this means is we are responsible for our own happiness. We're not responsible for other people's happiness. We're responsible for our own happiness. We're responsible for every feeling that we have. We are responsible for that. No one else has responsibility for that. So the cool thing is you don't have to wait. All right, so this is a big takeaway here. You don't have to wait anymore. You don't have to wait for someone else to make you feel a certain way. All right, so no more saying, you know what, I will feel loved when someone else loves me back. I will feel respected when I see other people showing me respect. We don't have to do that anymore. No more waiting for someone else to give you the feeling that you really want to have, because we get to give ourselves that same feeling. I want you to think about someone that you respect a ton, all right? Who is someone that you just have a tremendous amount of respect for? And I want you to think about that person, and I want you to think about the question, how much do you think they respect themselves? And I would guess that you would say that they respect themselves a ton. So the thing is, the people that we respect the most are the people who respect themselves the most. So the thing is, that's evidence of it starts with the person owning that feeling themselves. And when you find yourself giving yourself a ton of respect, when you find yourself giving yourself a ton of love, that's when you attract the very same thing that you wanted in the first place. So instead of us waiting around for the other person to give it to us, which by the way, isn't really going to happen, because they're waiting for us to give it to ourselves, which then attracts it. So instead of us waiting around for someone else to give us the feeling that we want, we can create the feeling inside of ourselves, and that will end up attracting the very thing that we wanted in the first place. But it all begins and ends with knowing that the responsibility for how we feel lives with us, right? So again, for all the people pleasers out there, and I know there are some, I know I'm not the only one. Number one, you're invited to join the People Pleasers Anonymous, right? We'll get that started. But for all my people pleasers, it starts with this phrase, I am not responsible for other people's happiness. I'm responsible for my own. I'm responsible for my own feelings, And when I take ownership of that, it's an amazing, beautiful thing because I don't have to wait anymore to feel that feeling. I don't have to wait for someone else to come along and give me that feeling I want. I can give it to myself. And then ultimately, we attract even more of that feeling that we want because we've given it to ourselves first. All right, guys, hopefully this was helpful to you. Hopefully you enjoyed this little lesson about responsibility and feelings. Again, I so appreciate you being tuned in to the Leading Edge podcast. If you want more of things just like this, what you need to do is join our membership, join the Inner Circle. The Leading Edge Inner Circle is there for you. You want to go to jointheleadingedge.com, get signed up, get into the Inner Circle. Oh my gosh, there's all kinds of resources there for you that will help you out in your business and in your life. In the meantime, I'm Eric Thompson, of course, and enjoy life on the Leading Edge. We'll see you next time.